We are back on this Thursday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley, 19th day of August, 2021. I am Dan Kuntz. Thanks for starting your day with us. We had a pretty good show for you today. Lots to touch on. Latest news from the 25-mile fire will be coming your way. It was a good day yesterday for firefighters. Fire didn't get any bigger, and we like to hear that. However, air quality is going to start deteriorating. We're going to have that weak ridge of high pressure. It's going to kind of move in, slide through. It's going to pack us down just a little bit, and then we got some active weather coming on Friday. In fact, Friday night, they've upped the ante just a little bit. Mother Nature's going to give us some rain. We're almost very confident about that. Yesterday at this time, they said there was about a 40% chance of rain. Now it's a bigger chance of rain, especially on Friday night. And the best news is, even though there may be some isolated associated thunderstorms with the rain on Friday night, they're not expecting any lightning strikes. That's the best of both worlds, because we need the rain. We don't need lightning. We may get exactly what we need on Friday night. Forecast details are coming up. There is a lot of news to get to. Obviously, COVID is still at the top of most people's agenda. We'll talk about that. Sports, the Mariners continue to play remarkably good baseball. They're making a serious run at the playoffs. They got to the Rangers again yesterday, and the teams that they're chasing lost. Good day for the Mariners. And high school football practice began yesterday. Our very own Eric Granstrom had a chance to pop on over to the east side, talk to Coach Michael Don of the East Mile Wildcats, and we'll preview that when we get to sports. And it's Thursday, so Pause for Pets is back. Josie the dog. There we go. Josie the dog needs a home. We'll introduce you to Josie. And in the interview section of this program, Rod Molzahn, my good friend, a local author, historian, and teacher, has a brand new book out. It's called What They Found. It's the history of North Central Washington and the people of North Central Washington from the very beginning to right about the turn of the 20th century. It's a great book. It's a fascinating conversation with Rod. We'll have that for you in the back half of the hour. 68 degrees, mixture of clouds and sun. Let's start our tour with 2 minutes after the hour with our Valley View camera batting lead off. Our cross camera, again, pointed a little bit more towards East Wenatchee. We are at the last day of the year where we are above 14 hours of daylight. Sunrise this morning was just about an hour ago, 6:03. Sunset tonight, 8:05. That's 14 hours and 2 minutes of daylight. Tomorrow, it'll be 13 hours and 59 minutes of daylight. We go below that 14-hour mark. We're losing about 2.5 minutes of daylight a day as summer begins to slip away. In fact, it's almost exactly 1 month of summer left to go before the autumnal equinox. Camera number 2 is Uriah's Choice, and we are off to see the outskirts of, I don't know, is that the monitor camera? That's the monitor camera. So way off in the distance is Kashmir. Even farther off in the distance is the Alpine Lakes Wilderness. We're looking at monitor down there below us and the orchards. I guess all that's pretty much left now this time of the year. It's the peak of the peach season. Apricots, I think, are pretty much a done deal, but apples are still got a ways to go, and we're heading right into the pear season. Pears are starting to come off the trees, so this is Cal Fitzsimmons' favorite time of the year. He loves a good pear. Our news and sales director, camera number 3. Nice view of, I want to say maybe Hose Landing. That's the Waterville camera. Well, it's pretty close to Hose Landing. That is Waterville off in the distance, as a matter of fact. I'm waving to Waterville. Waterville is not waving back. Good morning to Waterville. A few high clouds up there. And camera number 4. We wrap up our tour with Bill E. Goat. As you can see, the air is pretty dirty out there. In fact, the Washington State Department of Ecology has an air quality alert going on right now for our areas. Right now, it is unhealthy for sensitive groups in the area that you see there. You can see the haze and the smoke from the fires to the north of us. That's been burning for quite some time in the Winthrop area, and it has dirtied up the sky. So in Omak right now, you're at 128, and that is unhealthy for sensitive groups. That's some of the dirtiest air in the state, and it's going to stay that way. And we are going to see some hazy and milky skies, unfortunately, for the Wenatchee Valley. But again, the farther north you go, especially in the Omak, Okanagan, Riverside area, and into the Methow Valley, the air is going to be a little bit dirtier, and sometimes quite a bit dirtier. That's our Billy Goat camera, high above Alta Lake. You can see the golf course at the bottom of your screen. All right, cool and active weather. We showed you this slide yesterday, but it bears repeating. Today, pretty quiet, pretty benign. That's what we had yesterday. Yesterday was an absolutely just beautiful day. Didn't have a lot of smoke. Going to do it again today. Just not a lot to talk about. And then things start changing a little bit come Friday, especially Friday afternoon when we start talking about the chance of showers. A good chance of showers Friday night. We'd love that. and spilling right on into Saturday morning, and then we're going to warm back up again. The one thing you're going to notice, temperatures are going to be below normal. Our normal high this time of the year is right around 86 degrees. From the National Weather Service, let's go ahead and take a look at what Mother Nature has in store for us. Quite a bit of sunshine, but more haze today than we saw yesterday. Again, a little bit of a lid over the valley. Not a big lid, but a little bit. 84 for our forecast high, 63 for the overnight low. As the day progresses Friday, the clouds will begin to roll in. And by the time we get to Friday afternoon, we're talking about a pretty good chance of rain and an excellent chance of rain on Friday night. Again, thunderstorms, also a possibility, but no lightning associated with the thunderstorm. Confidence in that, according to the National Weather Service, for lightning is pretty low, but the rain, we will take it, and it will happen, it looks like, on Friday night. Spilling into Saturday morning. By Saturday afternoon, the sun will be coming back up, and then we head into a mild and quiet and above average forecast by the time we get to the middle of next week. August is slipping away from us little by little. Again, rain Friday afternoon and especially Friday night, spilling into Saturday morning. Bring it on. Can't wait for the rain. We need it. We're still in an extreme drought here in north central Washington. All right, at your forecast, in 1 minute, we're going to bring you the news, and there is a lot of it. You're watching a Thursday edition of Wake Up on Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life Channel.
Kids are resilient. I just love their energy. They bounce back so quickly. I love the stories they tell. I love just their charisma, their character. I love to see that subtle smile that you pull out of a kid, you know, when you start talking with them about something they really like. I just love what I do, and I can't imagine I would be as happy doing anything else.
What you're doing is ridiculous.
Well,
I mean, you might as well throw up a screen door to block the summer smoke.
sometimes it gets
When we
warm.
breathe in the wildfire smoke, we are ingesting hazardous chemicals such as acetic acid and polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. A lot of bad stuff, okay?
Well, yeah, that's why we...
Cardboard ain't gonna cut it.
So...
Go to chelanpud.org/save today.
High clouds and 68 degrees outside of our studios, and we're looking at high clouds, hazy temperatures, mid-80s today, and much-needed rain in the forecast on Friday afternoon and Friday night. 8 minutes after the hour, we begin with the 25-mile fire. Here's your latest. It was favorable weather yesterday and with increased manpower, and that helped firefighters hold the line yesterday as the 25-mile fire enters its fourth day now. Incident Commander Walter Escobar gave this briefing last night.
The team took this over on Monday morning, and where we're at today is in Division Alpha. Our priority continues to be structure protection, structure prep. As that fire continues to back down in Division Alpha, and then as we come around to Division Delta, we're looking at the Slide Peak 8410 road to try to pick that up, open it up with dozers, improve that road system as that fire continues to move to the east. And also in Division Delta, we're looking at First Creek, as we do have some homes up in that draw. So we're looking at what's going to take to do some structure protection using dozer lines, and also plugging in some hand crews to do some work around there. As we start building our box, one of the other things that we're looking at is Stormy Mountain, Devil's Backbone, all the way across to Juniper Point. And again, connecting the dots as we come around Grass Mountain, and then trying to tie it in back into the lake. So the fire is currently 8,000 acres. Fire activity today started picking up about 13:30 as it continues to get into these draws and making runs. So we expect that fire activity to calm down as we go into the nighttime. We do have resources out there at night that are going to keep eyes on it, but can also continue to protect those homes as that fire continues to back down. So yeah, so as the fire continues to back down, and then it gets into those draws, starts to make runs up the draw towards Slide Ridge. Again, we expect that fire activity to settle down as we go into the nightfall. We'll continue to have crews out there patrolling, keeping an eye on the fire, and continue to do structure protection close to the Hill Road throughout the night and up First Creek. So the plan for tomorrow, again, is to continue to scout, continue to improve old dozer lines, continue to improve Slide Ridge, the 8410 road, is to continue to prep that as the fire continues to move to the east. And then as we come around, looking for opportunities towards the Devil's Backbone as we want to build that box. A Type 1 team has been ordered. They're supposed to show up tomorrow, and if they're able to get in place, the plan will be for them to take over the fire from us on Friday morning. What they'll do is be able to get more resources to come and help. So as those assets can continue to show up, we'll continue to use what we have. Currently, we have an air attack, Type 1 helicopters, Type 2 helicopters, and the scoopers. The scoopers have been a big help in keeping this fire in check, being able to scoop water out of Lake Chelan, and so their turnaround has been pretty quick, which has been a big help to us as far as being able to support those folks on the ground. Yeah, thank you for your time, and we'll have another update tomorrow evening.
The State Department of Natural Resources has been called in to investigate that 5-acre fire that happened Sunday night at number 2 Canyon here in Wenatchee. The Chelan County Sheriff's Office said the fire was started by a man target shooting at tannerite. That's an explosive target in the dry brush. Now, thanks to a quick response by local agencies and a DNR helicopter, firefighters were able to quickly extinguish that wildfire. Tannerite is sold legally at sporting goods stores, but is banned by use on DNR lands. The number 2 Canyon fire was on private property, and even though there are numerous fire restrictions in place all over this state, that includes fireworks and campfires and the use of chainsaws, target shooting is not banned under Chelan County Code. Now, Chelan County Fire District 1 Chief Brian Brett said Wednesday he hopes to see that the county code gets updated to include target shooting. Governor Jay Inslee, as you know, yesterday set new COVID-19 vaccinations for all school and higher ed teachers and staff, and he also reimposed a mask mandate for indoor public facilities. Inslee's new executive orders come amid a surge in new COVID-19 infections and hospitalizations statewide, and requires vaccinations for all K-12 educators, staff, coaches, bus drivers, volunteers, and others working in school facilities. It also affects employees in Washington's higher education institutions, as well as most child care and learning providers.
These have not been easy decisions. I have not relished making them, but I'm confident that they are based on science and preserving life and allowing our kids to go to school. Those are good things in our state. The one thing I would ask for people is for everybody to be a leader here. I just happen to hold one office, but everybody in our state is a leader. You're a leader in your families, in your churches, in your businesses. I hope you'll talk to your people you care about this subject. Urge them to talk to their docs, and then make a decision. We want everybody to keep the ball rolling. That's what we're doing in Washington.
I do not anticipate the need to shut down schools at all this year, but that is a function of how we behave. If we don't vaccinate, if we don't wear masks, if we don't do as much as we can to respond when there are cases, that's the natural result, because nobody in the state of Washington is going to expect us to keep schools open if there is massive spread of this thing and the hospitalization of individuals, adults, or students, and God forbid the loss of life. What we do today matters. We is greater than me, and we have to wear face coverings now everywhere we go. We have to vaccinate at much higher levels and we have to look out for each other. And that's what Washingtonians are going to have to do to get this thing so that we are the strong position in the chess match.
The governor's mask requirement applies to all people, vaccinated or otherwise, for public spaces like grocery stores and restaurants and movie theaters and other gathering places. The latest numbers, 268,000 confirmed COVID-19 cases. 6,269 people have died so far in the pandemic in this state. New infections and hospitalizations of COVID-19 are peaking here in north central Washington, the highest numbers so far, as a matter of fact, in the year 2021. 33 people were hospitalized as of Tuesday at Confluence Health, the highest number since last December. Chelan Douglas Public Health Officer Dr. Malcolm Butler says 2 of the hospitalized patients are in their 20s, 2 others are in their 30s. Now, about 20% of patients tested for COVID through Confluence Health Services are turning up positive for the virus, and 834 new cases have been detected in the 2 counties in the last 2 weeks. Numbers are similarly dire in Grant County, which of course is holding its first county fair since 2019. Health officials continue to encourage everybody to mask up, maintain social distancing, and if you're eligible, to get vaccinated. And finally this morning, a Wenatchee man who ran over a person on foot during a road rage incident has been sentenced to a year on electronic home confinement. Back in December of 2019, James Harold Shepard got into a parking lot altercation with a driver he'd been tailgating on Grant Road in East Wenatchee, then ran over her male passenger in this red Jeep Cherokee as he fled the scene. The injured passenger suffered 2 broken legs. The victims said Shepard also displayed a handgun, but he was never charged with a weapons violation. Shepard is now 22 years old. He was arrested in May of 2020 after East Wenatchee police identified him from social media posts and statements from witnesses. He pled guilty in Douglas County Court last week to vehicular assault and hit and run. Court Commissioner Phil Safar imposed an exceptional sentence longer than the standard range of 3 to 8 months. Shepard's driver's license will also be revoked. Those are your headlines. At 17 minutes after the hour, if today is any indication, it's going to be another busy news day in the bullpen with the news crew, and we'll have a newscast for you tonight at 5, 6, and 10, also available on demand on our website with links on our Facebook page and our YouTube page. And with a preview, here's Grant Olson.
Good morning, Dan. Coming up tonight on the NCW Life Evening News, Rachel Mandelis will have our weekly Pause for Pets feature from the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society. Nice weather on tap for today, and then cooler and wet for this weekend. I'll have all the details in your complete North Central Washington weather forecast. And in sports, Eric Granstrom has the latest on the Mariners' push for a wild card playoff spot and more on the Seahawks as they prepare for this weekend's game against the Broncos. That and all the day's news coming up tonight at 5, 6, and 10 on the NCW Life Evening News. We hope to see you then. Dan?
Thank you, Grant. Don't forget, we'd love to hear from you, our viewers. We try to make it as easy as possible. Just go online. It's as simple as that. You can go to our website and get a hold of us. You can email us directly, or you can go to our Facebook page and drop us a note on Facebook Messenger. When we come back in sports, the Mariners keep on winning. Seahawks keep on practicing, getting ready for Denver on Saturday night at Lumen Field. And we'll preview some Eastmont High School football and more. Sports is 1 minute away. You're watching Wake Up in Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life channel.
Homeward bound, I wish I was homeward bound. Home, where my thoughts escaping. Home, where my music's playing. Home, where my love lies waiting silently for me. Silently for me.
At D.A. Davidson in Wenatchee, they believe your investment success begins with a personalized plan. A plan that is the roadmap you need to navigate your way to living your best years in retirement. D.A. Davidson can help you create a plan so you can take the time to enjoy the finer things in life. Let the financial advisors at D.A. Davidson help chart your retirement future today.
Sports at 20 minutes after the hour. The Seattle Mariners continue to ride good pitching and solid defense in their late summer push for a playoff spot. By golly, they won again last night. They beat Texas 3-1. Down in Arlington, Marco Gonzalez put together another quality start. He went 5 1/3 innings. He picked up his 5th win of the year. He allowed no runs, 6 hits, 3 strikeouts, just a walk. Kyle Seager continues to hit well against Texas. He smacked his 36th career home run against the Rangers last night.
Yahtzee out to right field. Another one going deep for Kyle Seager. Number 27. Flexen's a fan. And Kyle Seager just continues to pulverize the Texas Rangers. And the Mariners have a 2-0 lead right away.
As Aaron mentioned, for Kyle, his 27th home run, exit velo of 106, 421 feet. On the changeup out to right field. See the Mariners score early.
15% of all of Kyle Seager's career home runs have come against the Texas Rangers. That's second only to Mike Trout of the Angels for most home runs against a single team. After Texas pulled within 1 run with back-to-back doubles in the 7th, J.P. Crawford came up and added a little insurance.
Top of the order, J.P. Crawford. Out to right field. Garcia makes the catch plenty deep. Kelnick comes home and scores for some insurance. Meanwhile, Raleigh takes third on a sac fly off the bat of J.P. Crawford, and the Mariners extend the lead 3-1.
The Mariners scored their 3 runs on just 4 hits. That was it. So manager Scott Service said after the game he'd like to see a little more offense, but who's kidding who? The pitching's pretty darn good.
Talk about it daily, with our guys and our pitching group. It's what we pride ourselves on is, controlling that strike zone. Our guys have done a great job. The guys out of the bullpen been very aggressive, and our starting pitching as well. So it has been a key for us. It does limit the traffic and the opportunities, and it's just not in as much trouble. You don't give up the free bases. So credit to our guys. We need to stay on it. It will be key for us here as we move down the stretch. Well, the complete game was not going to happen again. I just wasn't going to let him go that deep. But certainly they laid off some pitches at the top of the zone. They were conscious of it. Again, it's easy. But, Marco lives right on the top rail of that strike zone. And it's hard to, distinguish what's a strike, what do I take. We've seen Fulte a lot. And he has started to throw a lot more breaking balls to us. And you see some guys pulling off some balls. We got to get back into probably taking some of those pitches to right field the opposite way. Just take your singles. I thought like the Toro at bat there in the last inning. You keep getting the changeups and the off-speed pitches to stay inside. But we got to get back to doing that. A little bit tougher outs there. Tonight we did make some outs on the bases. I tried to be a little bit more aggressive, stealing a few bases. I thought a couple of our guys were safe. We didn't get the calls or it didn't work out that way. But it happens. We're trying to create a little bit, but it starts in the batter's box, and we got to be a little bit more consistent there on getting back to using the whole field.
Mariners and Rangers wrap up the 3-game series 11:05 this morning. First pitch, Chris Flexen and Spencer Howard will toe their respective rubbers. Seattle able to gain ground in the wild card race. Oakland and Boston both lost. The A's fell to the White Sox 3-2. We'd like that. Shohei Ohtani hit his league-leading 40th home run for the Angels. They beat Detroit 3-1. Justin Upton also went deep for Los Angeles, and Hunter Dozier hit a 2-run home run at the bottom of the 7th for Kansas City. Royals beat Houston 3-2. Game 2 of the West Coast League Championship tonight in Corvallis. The Knights are in a must-win situation. Yakima Valley leads the best of 3 series, 1-0. First pitch at Goss Stadium, 6:35. If Corvallis wins, the third and deciding game tomorrow night in Corvallis at 6:35. Seahawks continue to implement their new offense during training camp, getting ready to take on the Broncos Saturday night at Lumen Field. Russell Wilson says they're making progress, and they should have things ready by the time the regular season begins come September.
I think we're doing a great job. I think that there's a couple things we got to tune up here and there, but I think we're gonna be really excellent on offense. I think we're gonna be able to move the ball really well. We have great confidence in what we're doing. Me and Shane on the same page. We have a great sense of what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it. We're trying to put ourselves in the toughest positions possible in certain series, certain plays, and everything else. And it's good. It's good. It's a good reps. Our defense looks great too. So we're gonna have a really good football team this year. We're excited about it, and we're excited about what we can do and how we're gonna do it. We got to do it together, and it's going to be fun. I think Shane's going to be great at it.
Wilson says he's not sure if he's going to see any playing time at all come Saturday night. One thing is for sure is that left tackle Dwayne Brown will be playing on Saturday night. They're still working on his contract.
Well, I think anytime Dwayne's not out there, it's Yes, you always want your star left tackle out there. So just trusting the process, hoping that it works out. Because we definitely need him. That'd be huge for us. He's been one of the best in the game, obviously, but I think I'm sure it'll get figured out and worked out. That's what I'm hoping for and wanting.
Seahawks and Broncos, Saturday night at Lumen Field, 7 o'clock, Q13 Fox. Fall practice got underway for area high school footballs. Let's take a look at Eastmont. They're going through their drills, getting ready for their season opener. It's just 15 days away. Coach Michael Dawn told our very own Eric Granstrom that even though most of the team played a COVID-19 shortened season just a couple of months ago, they're a long way from being ready.
You would be amazed at how much a high school kid can forget in a few months. I am every year, and so we're always amazed at that. But the guys are excited. It's a lot quicker turnaround. Normally, one of the things that's the hardest about football is you spend 9 months working for 3 months of playing, and you still only play 10 games. It's different than every other sport. In baseball, they play 100 million games in the summer. In basketball, they go pick up and they play all the time. Football is one of the last sports where you work a heck of a lot more than you play. So this year they had a lot smaller gap where they had to do all the work, and now they get it right back into play.
Eastmont and the rest of the Big Nine are back to a regular 9-game schedule. Of course, for the Wildcats, they got 2 really tough games right out of the gate.
As far as the teams in our league, obviously Sunnyside and West Valley tied down south, and Wenatchee's put out some good teams lately, and Moses Lake has a new coach, so we'll see what happens there. We're really focused on week 1. We decided to go Murderers Row first couple weeks and probably play the 2 best teams in Spokane. We needed a challenge. We needed to see what we were capable of early on and see what we had, and we went after it for week 1 and 2, and we'll see who we are real quick.
By the way, Eric's entire conversation with Coach Dom will air in tomorrow's edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. The Wenatchee Panthers will be profiled tomorrow as well. And those are just some of the games that people are playing on this Thursday, 27 minutes after the hour. Today is World Photo Day. We'll get to that in a minute. Today is National Aviation Day. We'll get to that in a minute. But we're going to go with National Soft Ice Cream Day. And it's a great story. Back in 1934, Tom Carville, who was a purveyor of quality hard ice cream, was driving to his ice cream stand in Hartsdale, New York. His truck got a flat tire. He pulled over to the side of the road. It was a warm summer day, and his ice cream started to melt, so he just started to sell the ice cream to anybody who was driving by before the ice cream all melted. And by golly, it sold itself. And he said, if I can figure out a way to make soft ice cream on a regular basis, I'm going to make a lot of money. And he figured it out, and he made a lot of money. And he opened up the very first soft ice cream stand in the very location where his truck had the flat tire 2 years earlier. When given a choice, about 70% of people will prefer soft ice cream to hard ice cream. Lower fat content, a higher temperature, and lots of air are the reasons why soft ice cream is soft ice cream. And by the way, soft ice cream is less fat than hard ice cream. So enjoy a soft ice cream cone today in honor of Mr. Carville, whose car broke down and gave us soft ice cream. It's the obscure holiday. Today in history, 182 years ago today. By the way, this is the very first photograph, the oldest photograph known to man, taken by Louis Daguerre. Louis Daguerre of France took that photo in 1837. He basically invented photographs, and on this date, 182 years ago today, the French government announces that Louis Daguerre's photographic process would be free to everybody as a gift to the world. Now, Louis Daguerre was not happy with this. He goes, wait a minute, patents, copyrights, royalties, I invented this process, and they're telling me I'm not getting a dime out of it, French government, and that's what happened. That's why it's World Photography Day today. Happy 112th birthday to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the largest sports venue in the world. 250,000 permanent seats, 250,000 temporary seats. It sits almost 500,000 people. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway in Speedway, Indiana, which is actually a town completely surrounded by Indianapolis. That's where the track actually is. And on this date, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway opened for automobile racing. And on its very first day of operation, August 19th, 1909, Wilfred Bork and his mechanic were killed in a race. Bad start to the Indy Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Hitler got the gig on this date 87 years ago today. Paul van Hindenburg had died 17 days earlier, and Hitler took over as the Fuhrer and the Chancellor and the President, but they decided to hold a vote anyway, and so you got to vote whether you wanted Hitler to be the Fuhrer or not, and well, when you're the only one on the ballot, you're guaranteed to win, and he won, and well, they had an election even though there was no opposition. That was 87 years ago today. Paris, France is liberated August 19th, 1944, with the help of the Allied troops, of course, and the French underground and the Free French. Paris fell to the Nazis August 19th, 1944. Paris is free. Romania quit the war. That was 77 years ago today. 70 years ago today, one of the great baseball stories. He was only 43 inches tall. He wore the number 1/8 on the back of his jersey. Eddie Gaedel walks on 4 pitches in his only major league appearance. It was Bill Veeck's idea of playing the midget. It was legal at the time. It's later outlawed. They took his name out of the record books. Now he's back in. This is for the St. Louis Browns. 70 years ago today, Eddie Gaedel walks on 4 pitches. One of baseball's great oddities. And finally, this is why you don't go on vacation if you are a dictator or the president of the Soviet Union. Mikhail Gorbachev and his family were vacationing in the Ukraine, and there was a coup at Moscow, and they said, sorry, Gorby, you're out. And then he was back in, and then he was out again. Gorbachev lost the gig, so to speak, the beginning of the end of the Soviet Union 30 years ago today. And finally, let's do some birthdays. Orville Wright, one half of the Wright brothers, inventor of the modern airplane. This is why today is National Aviation Day. It was proclaimed this back in 1939 by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Orville Wright, who outlived his brother Wilbur by 36 years, born in the state in 1871. Gene Roddenberry would have been 100 years old today, born in the state in 1921, of course, the creator of Star Trek. Born in this state 100 years ago today. Happy 86th birthday to Bobby Richardson, second baseman of the New York Yankees from 1955 to 1966, an 8-time All-Star, 3-time world champion, and the MVP of the 1960 World Series. The New York Yankees lost the 1960 World Series, but Bobby Richardson was still named MVP, the only person ever to do that, named World Series MVP from the losing team. Bobby Richardson is 86, and William Jefferson Clinton, the 42nd President of the United States, is 75 today. All right, we're going to take a break. Mike McKnight got an opinion, my conversation with local author and historian Rod Molzahn. But first, Josie the dog needs a home. It's Pause for Pets.
This week on Pause for Pets, Jenny Ulrich, the volunteer and outreach coordinator for the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society, introduces us to a very unique dog named Josie.
This is Josie, and she is our pet of the week this week. She is super special to all of us here. She has some special needs, and that's that she's deaf, but she doesn't let that stop her. She is such a sweet dog. She's kind of some of our favorites around here. She's gentle, she's easy to walk on a leash. She came here with her 3 puppies and was such a good mom. She's recently started going to playgroup with some of our gentle players. Her only downside is that she kind of had a hard stare when we tested her with the cats, so she's probably best in a no-cat home. But overall, Josie's like one of the easiest dogs working with in a long time.
If you are interested in meeting and adopting Josie, the Wenatchee Valley Humane Society is located at 1474 South Wenatchee Avenue and is open Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., 2:30 p.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and 2:30 to 5 p.m. Give them a call at 509-662-9577 or visit their website at wenatcheehumane.org.
Hey, this is Mike Mad Dog McNally, and everybody is entitled to my opinion. So I'm watching a video on the net, something on YouTube or Facebook, and suddenly the video stops and an advertisement, a commercial pops up. Now, isn't this the reason many of us eschew regular TV and pay for cable or internet service so we don't have to watch commercials? Now, look, advertisers, let me tell you, I'm going to guarantee you that if your commercial is the one that interrupts my streaming videos, I will be sure never to patronize your business or buy your product. This is Mike Mad Dog McNaughty, and that's my opinion.
Welcome back to Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. My guest is no stranger to the people of North Central Washington. He was a longtime columnist for the Good Life magazine, writing about the people and the history of North Central Washington. He is one of the experts, one of the half dozen people who know more about this area than almost anybody. He has done his homework, and he has a book. It's called What They Found, Stories of People in North Central Washington. And I mean, we're going all the way back to the very beginning. Rod Molzahn is my guest. Rod, thanks for joining me.
It's nice to be here.
It's good to see you. I'm familiar with your work, obviously, back in the day when you would work with our good friend Uncle Dave, and you would come in and do your soliloquies that I enjoyed so much. And you've written this book. I can't think of a person who was more qualified to write this book, Rod Molzahn. The genesis of this book. Why did you decide to finally get off the schneid and get her done?
Well, you made a short mention about the spoken word CDs that I did. And as soon as I put those out, people were saying, well, when's the book coming? And I thought, the book? So I got that question a lot, so I thought, okay, I better think about that. So when the idea really started to get into my head, my plan was to write a history of the Wenatchee Valley. And I didn't get very far before I realized that you can't talk about the Wenatchee Valley unless you're ready to talk about all of North Central Washington, because it's all connected. So at that point, the whole idea of what the book would be changed for me and opened up all kinds of new research to do. So that's really the beginning of it. That was about 10 years ago. At that point, I was finishing about a chapter a year. I'll talk about the pandemic a little bit, because I have other work that I do too.
Yeah.
I'm a substitute teacher for Westside High School, Hooray Westside, my favorite school in the whole town. I do a couple other things too. I do some theater work. And so what happened when the pandemic came in, they closed the schools, so I lost that work, and then they canceled all of my summer art programs, so that was gone too. And I thought, well, I got all this time that I always complained that I didn't have, so I decided that I would not sit around and drink wine until 4 in the afternoon. I would, in fact, write the book. So I was able to finish it in about a year. And I had kind of anticipated it would take me another 2 or 3 years to finish. So
You mentioned that you can't tell the story of the Wenatchee Valley without telling the story of North Central Washington as a whole. The connective is, to me, two things. Number one, the Columbia River.
Yep.
And number two, when the railroads came.
Yep.
Those were when the Columbia River became navigable to a certain point, and you could use it to get from point A to point B, and then in came the railroads as well.
Yeah. Well, actually, the steamboats came before the railroad because J.J. Hill was a good friend of Alexander Griggs. They had worked together in Minnesota, actually owned a steamboat on the Red River back there. So J.J. Hill knew he wasn't going to run a rail north from Wenatchee. That wasn't in his plans at that time. But they also knew there was a lot of towns up there and a lot of business up there. So he told his friend Alexander Griggs to sell his stuff in Minnesota, come out here, and he could make a lot of money running steamboats up and down the Wenatchee, and that's exactly what happened. So I consider the steamboats to be the first real connector between all of the towns from here up to Orville, actually.
All the way to the Canadian border.
All the way to the border.
This book is chronological, and it's stories of people of North Central Washington. You go all the way back to the very, very beginning. I mean, to the very, very beginning, before the white man came, back to the indigenous people who
we're late arrivals.
Yeah, very late arrivals.
Very late arrivals.
You went all the way back to the very, very beginning with Clovis Man.
With the Clovis stuff. Well, they were then. You know, I mean, people say, well, what's the book about? And I say, it's a history of North Central Washington from geology to apple trees. And there's a lot of stuff that went on between that. I like geology, and so I write about it. I like the native people and their stories, and so I write about it. Somebody said, write about what you know. That helps too, but I mostly was writing about stuff I wanted to know. And so the research came first, and I thought, oh, this is pretty cool, and I like that.
You said it took you a good decade to write it. Did you find inspiration when you would write your columns for The Good Life, which are all about the history of the people in North Central Washington? You said, oh, make a note of that. That's got to go into the book. Did that have that kind of organic development as the book built up, or did you just say, I'm writing this chronologically, come hell or high water?
That's a good question. I like that. I tried not to, because I was already, when I told a couple people I was working on a book, they said, oh, is it just a combination of Good Life articles? And I said, no, and I thought, I need to make sure that people don't think that's what it is. And so I didn't structure it in the same way as the Good Life articles. And I also tried hard not to borrow back and forth between them. I'd write something really neat in the book, and then I'd be at a loss for a Good Life article that month. I go, well, I could just take, no. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to keep them pretty separately. I wanted there to be things in the book that never showed up in the Good Life articles. I want there to be things in Good Life that don't ever show up in the book. I just think that they're separate animals.
So you don't have to look at Rod and I for the whole 15 minutes. You brought some photos. We're going to throw some photos up. And Rod, I'm going to let you just handle the description of what the folks on.
All right.
So we're going to use the monitor here in the studio, and you folks at home, please use your televisions. We talked about Clovis, and there we begin.
There is an actual Clovis point. Hard to get that kind of thing. There was an agreement made between the Colville and the Richies, who owned the orchard where this stuff was found, and they, excuse me, they wanted only replicas available for photographs. The points that they have down here in the Wenatchee Museum are replicas. The points that they have and the photos they have for the Washington Historical Society Museum in Tacoma are all replicas. And I didn't want a replica. So what we have here is a photo taken at the time that the points were uncovered. This is a Clovis point in situ, S-I-T-U, which means it is lying in the very dirt that it was placed in 13,000 years ago. It was not moved. It was uncovered, brushed clean, and then they were all covered back up again and covered with concrete. So this is a very unusual photo. It's hard to know what it was other than it's a beautiful blade. I said something to somebody one day. I said, this is functional art. And they said, well, it's a skill. It's not so much art. And I said, no, the skill was making it sharp. It didn't have to be beautiful. That's the art. So this is probably a knife blade as opposed to an animal killing spear point.
You go into great detail of the indigenous personnel, the indigenous people who were here long before we were, and their interactions with the early white settlers. This wasn't like Missouri or Kansas. This was a different kind of setup. And we're going to show you some of the photos of the Native American tribal leaders, almost all of them the last of their generation.
That's a good thing to say because it was true. They were all the last because they all ended up on the Colville, and there were no more tribes, and there were no more chiefs.
Let's go ahead and we'll begin with this one.
No Indians, but we got this wonderful photograph of Sam Miller, who, along with the Freer brothers, they took over the trading post down at the confluence. I know where the towers are down there, the broadcast towers.
The KPQ towers, yep.
Yeah, the KPQ towers. And the trading post was probably right up on the little bench right behind to the west side of those towers. So this is Sam, and he closed the store in 1888. This is a later picture. It was thought for a while that these were the children of the Freer brothers, who died way before Sam did, but actually they're not. These are the children of the Freer brothers. So these are the Freer's grandchildren.
Is Sam Miller the same one who Miller Street was named after, or is that a different
That's
Miller?
A good question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sam Miller was at the south end, or the north end, I'm sorry,
right.
Of Miller Street. That's where the trading post was. And at the south end, where Millardale Street is now, was Philip Miller's 1,000 acres. Both of them took turns pounding the gold or the silver spike in when the railroad came through Wenatchee, because they were both considered the fathers of Wenatchee. They were the earliest. They both showed up about the same time. They were not related. And the answer to your question is nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Or the best answer is it was probably named after both of them.
Right. And descendants of the Miller family, by the way, still call this place home, which is pretty cool. Another picture, throw it up, please.
This is John Harmelt. He was the last chief of the Pasquos people, who have in the past been called the Wenatchee people, but that was not their name. Their name was Pasquos or Pasquosa. Either one, I have been told, is correct. This was taken in 1931 at the last powwow that happened in Kashmir. They had been annual kinds of things, and this was the last one. I love his facial expression. At this point, his whole life was centered around trying to get the reservation that they had been promised in 1855.
Yet another broken promise by the,
yet another
by the
one.
government.
It was a mile square, supposed to be right at the confluence of the Icicle and the Wenatchee, which is now where Leavenworth is, of course. So, yep, this was good stuff.
Next one, please.
I love this picture. This is Long Jim. He's the last chief of the Cheyennes. His father was Inamosicha, and he had an older brother named Inamosicha Bill, and so this guy became Inamosicha Jim. His father and his brother died at basically the same time, so at a very young age he became the last chief of the Cheyennes. And I've seen many pictures of him. This looks to me like somebody who's probably 18 or 19 years old. There are a lot of other pictures of him when he was older, and honestly, in a couple of the older ones, he's wearing exactly the same striped suit and exactly the same leather vest. So I said, well, that's got to be another picture of Long Jim.
Let's throw up another one, please.
He's great. This is my favorite one, maybe. I don't know. This is Chilcosa Haskett. He was the last chief of the Antiats. He was probably around 100 when this picture was taken.
And he lived another 5 years after that.
At least another 5 years after that. He's buried up in Manson, not rather than the Entiat where he had his home. His family and the other native people considered that his grave would be better kept in Manson than it would be in Entiat. But he was quite something.
Next picture.
This is Chief Moses, who we all know about, and he loved clothes, as you can see.
Yeah, I wish that was in color. We'd really show you that.
It's great.
Yeah.
His last wife, Mary, was a seamstress, and she probably made everything that he's got on right now. The things hanging over the front of his shoulders are replicas of beaver tail. The fur stuff around his cuffs is probably beaver fur. Great hat. Moses was an interesting person. He fought in the Indian Wars. He killed white soldiers, and then finally, they rode the train to Washington, D.C., and he came back and he said, "We can't fight." He says, "I've been there. There are no Indians there, just a whole lot of white people. I had no idea how many white people there were." He said, "So we can never win." So he changed his whole approach from waging war to waging peace. And
just recently, the city of Moses Lake, way overdue, but they finally are honoring Chief Moses.
Are they doing that?
Well, yeah, they have a nice little thing in Moses Lake that they just recently dedicated.
All right, I like that idea.
Yeah,
these people, they need to be remembered.
Absolutely. Next picture, please.
He's also one of my favorites. You got them all. This is Sarsopkin, one spelling of about 15 different ones that exist. And he was the last chief of the Sinlahican Valley Okanogans. You kind of have to know the area down there. The Sinlahican Valley runs from Loomis up to Concanoli. And it's a beautiful, I call it a paradise valley. And that's where he had his homestead. He negotiated a very large homestead under the Indian Homestead Act. And that's where it was in the Sinlahican. He raised horses. And he also took a trip on the train to Washington, D.C. with Moses, a second trip. And that maybe is where he got his beautiful top hat. I said he's got a black top hat with an animal wrapped around it.
I see that. Next picture, please.
We like that. This is Tonasket, for whom the town of Tonasket is named. It's a very fascinating face, I think.
A very determined face.
It's a what?
A determined face.
Very
determined.
If you'll notice these faces on all these final chiefs, they are all determined.
Yeah, they're not smiling.
They're not smiling.
No.
And you wouldn't either in that situation. He's got a great hat, and it looks like he's got something made of fur wrapped around him. I can't quite tell.
We have, I think, a few more photos to show. I don't know if we have any more Native American chiefs, but
No.
this photo I thought was just fascinating. Talk
This is
about
1908. We don't know where it was taken. There's any number of places that it would have fit, but I'm going to say probably in the Wenatchee Valley or...
When I first saw this, I wanted to say maybe out in Monitor.
It could,
In-
yes.
yeah, the
it
foothills
could be
around
that
Monitor.
too. Yeah, I'm looking at those hills in the background.
And this is a posed photo,
This
which is why
a
it looks so
posed
good.
photo.
Right.
If you look at the left-hand side, you got a couple of guys in derby hats and suits, and they're each holding apples. They look like they're getting ready to juggle them. And the rest of the people are probably the families that owned the orchard and the workers in there. And so the photographer, whose name is in the corner, I can't read it and I can't remember it. But he said, okay, you stand here, you sit on the wagon, you go over here, and everybody stand really still for a while.
And for all we know, that orchard may still be there. Who
It
knows?
may be, but it's nice to be able to look at these untrimmed trees. We don't have orchards that look like this anymore.
No, and if you're a viewer out there, and you can pretty much get in, the idea I'm thinking is looking at the mountains in the background would give you the best idea of where this picture may be taken.
Yep.
Next photo, we're running a little short. The wreck.
The Pringle sunk in the Entiat Rapids. We've gotten a lot of benefits from the dams. I've lived a couple other places, and while I need to move back to where the power is cheap, and certainly we got that out of them. But we lost a lot too. We lost the last big free-ranging river in North America when we dammed it into reservoirs. But this was in the Entiat Rapids, and the steamboats ran back and forth between Wenatchee and Brewster. In the spring, they could get up almost to Riverside in Okanagan County.
And it was dangerous, and this is proof positive.
It was
of
very
that.
dangerous. There were at least 5 steamships, these are all paddle wheelers, sunk in the Entiat Rapid. Excuse me, this was one. The Pringle went down. They pumped it out and refloated it, and they were taking it down to the shipyards in Wenatchee to fix it, and it broke loose from its tow line and went spinning down the Columbia and grounded itself on the bank just above the Rock Island Rapids.
Wow.
And the Griggs' company declared it a total loss.
I don't know if we have any more photos or not from the book, what they found. Oh yes, the Chinese ladders. I think this is our last one, Rod.
That could be.
Yep.
If you look hard, you can see this picture was taken from Methouse Street right at the top before it dips down and joins the Squilchuck Highway. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So these were built by Chinese in about 1860, and you can see the ladders. And the Chinese were gold mining down along the river, and they would follow the gold up the tributary streams, and they followed the gold up the Squilchuck. We're going to find out where this was coming from. And what they found was what we now refer to as D Reef, where all the gold came from. And they built these ladders. You can see them one by one. And then right in the middle, you can see a ladder that comes right up at the end of a platform. So they would climb the ladders and stand on a platform and pry rocks out of the cliff and then drop them down to their buddies at the bottom, who would haul them down to the creek and wash them out and break them up. So this was a gold mining operation. These ladders were probably built around 1860. I believe that they are, and they're still there. You can drive down Methouse Street, and if you know what you're looking for, you can see them up there, right across from what used to be Bremer Construction. I don't know if they're still there or not. But these are the oldest man-made structures in the Wenatchee Valley, without a doubt.
And they're still there. Now, they're hard to
still
find because
there.
they're all weather beaten and they kind of look like the rocks, but
I
still
wouldn't
there.
try climbing them.
No, that's just crazy.
All right.
What did you, we just have a few more minutes left, Rod. What did you take out of this book as you wrote it, and what do you want the people who read this to get out of this book?
That's a big question. I learned so much doing this book because there was a tremendous amount of research that I had to do. I didn't start out, excuse me, I didn't start out knowing this stuff. I took advantage of a lot of different research sources that had written about bits and pieces of it. I think what really struck me mostly was the interconnectedness of all of North Central Washington with all of North Central Washington. And as I say in the introduction of the book, That's what this is about. This is about how we are connected to all the other places in north central Washington. And I guess that's what I want people who read it to understand too.
I've been saying that for years. It's not Wenatchee and East Wenatchee and Aniat and Cashmere and Chelan and Leavenworth. It's all of it. Yeah.
It's all of it.
It's all intertwined.
And as I say, I'm sorry, there's no place in north central Washington that doesn't grow fruit.
Yeah, exactly. How do folks get a hold of this book? What's people are out there, they're going to say, I want a copy, Rod. What do I do?
Well, they're getting pretty easy to find. I do have a website to sell the book. It is ncwstories.net. Simple enough for me to remember. And other than that, you can find the book. I'll see if I can remember the various places. Here in the Wenatchee Valley, you can find the book at the Wenatchee Valley Museum. You can find it at Ridgeline Graphics. You can find it at the Rhubarb Market down on the avenue. That's probably it for the Wenatchee Valley. I'm thinking I must be missing somebody. You can find it up at the Cashmere Museum.
Okay.
You can find them at A Book for All Seasons in
Leavenworth. Yep.
You can find them at the Chelan Museum and at the Okanagan Museum. And pretty soon, when I make another trip, you'll be able to find them at the Trails End Bookstore in Winthrop.
I'm a native, and for me, my knowledge of the history of the Wenatchee Valley was the great names, the Galatleys, the Guns, the Millers, as you mentioned before, A.Z. Wells, and that. This goes back so much. I learned so much about the Wenatchee Valley that I thought I knew, and I didn't know. It turns out I didn't know squat, and so I want to thank you personally for filling in all the blanks. This is a fascinating book. If you have any interest at all in the people, and it is the people of North Central Washington that made it what we are today, this is a must-read. Rod, thanks for coming by.
You bet.
I appreciate it.
We should all know the story of where we live.
Yeah, if this is where you've decided to put down roots and call this place home, this book you got to have in your library. And more than that, you should read it. Rod, it's good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep,
you know
always
what
a
Mark
pleasure.
Twain said about a classic?
What's that?
He said, that's a book that everybody talks about and nobody reads.
Well, he was wrong on this point.
Yeah, I
Rod,
hope
it's
so.
good to see you.
All right.
You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. We'll be right back.
Country, land of Pat Armstrong, Ford Lincoln, home of the lifetime warranty. That'll sure get you thinking. You need a new truck, an SUV, a car to take in on the scenery. Mountains, rivers, slopes, and streams. You might as well see them from the truck of your dreams. You're in Ford Country, land of Pat Armstrong, Ford Lincoln. You're in Ford Country.
And we are back, 70 degrees now, outside of our studios here in downtown Wenatchee. Real quick check on the air quality right now. Again, the Washington State Department of Ecology has issued an air quality alert, and it doesn't have an expiration date. It's just going to be out there until further notice for the Okanagan County area, also Chelan County, because we're going to see a little more smoke, a little more haze today than we had yesterday. And right now, the only one that really jumps out at me is at OMAC. You're at 143 OMAC. That is unhealthy for sensitive groups. It is moderate in the Medhow Valley, but we are going to be dealing with some haze and some smoke. You want some good news from Mother Nature? We got some rain coming our way tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow night from the National Weather Service. That way, if you don't like the weather, you can blame the government. It looks something like this. We're going to have sunshine today, but it's a little more hazy than we had yesterday. Right around 84. It's a couple of degrees below normal. We hit 84 yesterday. We're going to get 84 again today. 63 for the overnight low tonight. And then Friday, here we go. We'll start out with some sunshine and some high clouds and some haze. But as Friday progresses, once we get to about 2 or 3 in the afternoon, the clouds will be here, and they'll be hanging around for the rest of Friday, right on into Friday night. Friday during the day, before sunset, about a 30% chance of rain, and then after sunset, a 50% chance of rain, and even a stray thunderstorm. The good news here is they have a pretty good idea that we are going to get some thunderstorms all over the north central Washington area, but there is no lightning that they can foresee in the forecast that will be associated with a thunderstorm. So the best case scenario, much needed rain, and no lightning. And that looks like that's what we're going to have on Friday night and Saturday. That's it for us. Have a good and safe Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.